Hi, my name is Boyd Hilton and welcome to this very special look at Sherlock the Abominable Bride. We're calling it a Post Mortem because we've got all the key players here and we're going to be discussing the whole show, how they came up with it, all the secrets. So spoiler warning, if for some godforsaken reason you haven't actually watched The Abominable Bride yet, please do now, then come back and watch us discuss the whole thing afterwards. I'm joined by Uber producer Sue Vertue, Mark Gatiss, co-creator, executive producer, co-writer. Is that fair? Yeah. Mycroft, well, I forgot about that. Stephen Moffat, co-creator, co-producer, executive producer, doesn't actually star in it, but maybe one day. Yet.
I know.
And Amanda Abbington, of course, Mary. And we are going to be discussing the whole show. So, Mark, you told us journalists and the world, that you were going to do lies, basically. We were going to do a one-off special set in 1895, the original period of Sherlock Holmes, as written by Arthur Conan Doyle. And that was pretty much it. No idea that it was all part of this cunning plan that actually was all taking place in Sherlock's mind, etc., etc. So I guess the first question, the question that everyone wants to know is, was that all part of the conception originally that, yes, you were doing a Victorian special, but at the same time, it had this key role in explaining a lot of things about what happened to the previous episode?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, we knew we'd have to lie. And I mean, it's extraordinary how people do sort of get slightly cross. You go, well, the alternative is we just spoiled it. I mean, we were never going to sit around a table with journalists and say, actually, this is the twist. Somehow we get blamed for that. I'm afraid it's just what we have to do all the time. You can never really trust anything we say, not even what I'm saying now. But yes, we conceived it completely as episode 10, and that really, as soon as it became apparent that we could do it all as if it was a recreation in his head, that he was trying to solve a crime that was like Moriarty's death, which to sort of explain how Moriarty had come back, then the conceit was there that really it all takes place in the minutes after he's got the phone call on the plane, and anticipating this thing, that how long we could take it until you pull the rug. And we always hoped that we could do it as long as possible, which then we did. It was about 75 minutes with the odd clue. Although we sort of belt and braced it that there were some earlier clues. We actually shot some bits where Sherlock looks in the window of Baker Street and sees the modern version of himself. But it was very much
and the morgue.
And the morgue, yes, and the mirror scene, which took a lot of doing. And then, of course, as we'd hoped, we didn't want to use them because it was just about trying to sell the dummy, and the moments which I find spine-tingling. When we sat in the cinema and watched it on New Year's Day, you could tell when Benedict says, "How could he survive?" There was a little fristle of like, oh.
Well, they've made an error.
It's the usual continuity error.
There were lots of people, I was watching it and afterwards looking back on Twitter, lots of people on Twitter kind of thinking that certain lines were a mistake, that you hadn't stuck with the original way of speaking back then. Of course, there were little clues right from early on in the script of what was going on, Stephen. Did you ever think, so if this episode had been part of the normal run and not on its own as a special, would you have done it the same way? Would it have been part of the general... Or was it all down to the fact that you were going to do a special?
We had the idea of doing a Victorian version, and in the way we ultimately did it. But I don't think it'd have been right to take up a third of one of our normal runs with this. Also, you couldn't sell the dummy as effectively if it was part of the series. If you say it's a special, it's on its own, we're doing it Victorian, never mind, and then you can genuinely, properly surprise people when it turns out not to be. Or when you start to tease them, you start to provoke them with those lines. And as Mark says, there was a few moments that we didn't use. When you start to sort of tease at it, you think, is this for real or not? So by having the special, and I think this is the only time we could have done it. If we did, I remember we almost didn't manage to schedule this. And we were saying we're not doing it as part of the series, and any other time doing it would be too late. It has to be now.
It's a curious thing that wasn't it? That actually, we said to Benedict and Martin as well that's actually, we can really only do it now. It was sort of conceived because we didn't have time to do 3. It's a special now, and this idea works now. It was quite tight, really, because we couldn't have just sort of put it as episode 1 and then suddenly gone back to the future.
It was also having the importance of the Mind Palace, wasn't it? Which in series 3. You sort of placed that in a bit more, so it didn't come out the blue.
Yes.
Really.
Well, the whole death palace sequence, as we call it, in his last fight, where you know that Moriarty's in there, you actually see him inside it. So, I mean, you know, it was fresh in the minds of the audience that he can do that.
Fresh in the minds of 2 years ago.
Well, that was the thing.
Fresh as it
I was going to
reasonably.
mention about the
Yeah.
recaps.
Well,
The recap is not, doesn't seem just like, it's just not just a recap, but a rather wonderful way of getting us all back into it with, and is it my imagination, was every single bit of that recap kind of reflected back in this episode as well somehow?
Maybe.
But also the recap we were trying to disguise, we wanted to get certain bits in there, didn't we, about you know, him being on the plane. So we wanted to show the plane without people realising that it was a recap. So that's we were all the way back to the beginning.
Right.
But it came out very much. We actually had an advanced screening for the people who were going to have to publicise it because we couldn't keep everything a secret. It was quite a long time ago, and I remember after that, because you can lose sight of these things, you forget that of course the other 100% of the audience have not watched it 30,000 times.
No.
They've watched it once, and I remember suddenly thinking, I think somebody said to me, because I'd forgotten he was on that plane. I thought, that's important. And so conceiving the idea of a little recap that would actually be another trick, really.
Because it buries the idea of the plane within what
us.
seems to be a summation of the series today with the alternatively. But that was a lot of toing and froing over that recap.
Was there?
Oh,
And why? Because
we're trying to disguise it, and we can't say it's a recap because we're saying it's a standalone. Why does a standalone need a recap? Well, what if we do a summation of a reminder of all the characters to date? Here they all are. Here's what we normally do, and then say alternatively, and that way and all that is to remind you that he's on a plane and the plane is down. All of that. That's the only piece of information you need.
brilliant. Amanda, I remember asking you and the whole cast when we visited the set, I was lucky enough to visit the set, what you thought when you read the script. And of course, you all had to lie as well because you couldn't reveal what you really thought when you read the script. What did you really think?
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was such a good idea that because I didn't realise, you read it and then you get further into it, and then it says they land at the airport. You think, we've been in his head, and it was a real revelation because Martin and I, when we get the script, since I've been in the show, we read them together in the sitting room. We sort of. Which is a really nice little kind of thing we do, and we got to that scene where the plane lands, and we both went, this is amazing, this is suddenly much more than what we thought it would be. I mean, it was brilliant.
And what did you think of the sense that, I mean, were you excited about using the Victorian setting anyway? I mean, would you have been that?
Yeah, there's always something quite romantic about doing that, and I think it was brilliant that we went back to the original time. It would have been. It wouldn't have been great if we hadn't done it. I think now I've played Mary traditionally, and it's something that will be really dear to my heart. It's because there's such fantastic characters in that setting. I'm glad we managed to do that.
And that scene when you're in the black dress is a classic scene. Yeah, that's a pretty good way of opening.
It was it was brilliant. I loved it. It was such a great reveal for her, and then we find out that she's a suffragette, and then we find out that she works for Mycroft, and it all kind of runs alongside modern.
Separate spin-off series.
Yes,
and
presumably a much better.
Well, they want to do a spin-off
because she's
Molly
in
Mary.
that film
Mary.
smarter than both versions of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and Mycroft is smarter than Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
So we're missing the good series.
Yeah.
The really good.
You've got to write. You have to write Molly and Mary.
Apparently,
that's what people have been asking for. They've been asking for a Molly Mary spin-off.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the fact that Mary.
Loads of time for that.
When did you envisage us making that? It was good to use up all that spare time.
Yeah, you must. Yeah.
You'll be fine. But
Hang on, I do need a job, don't I?
Right. Yeah. So you've got all that extra
your next
spare
project.
Time. Let's talk about Mary working for Mycroft. So what is that all about? That's kind of a big new development. But we have to keep reminding ourselves that's taking place in Sherlock's mind. So why is Sherlock?
Well, the rationale really was, if you can call it that, was that really this is all taking place super fast.
Yeah.
Really, it's minutes as he's inside his head and his slightly drug-induced mind palace trip, really. But he's sort of solving these things, but also having fun. That's what we thought. You can excuse that all the time. It's an elaborate construction for the benefit of the audience. Yeah. But what Sherlock is doing is having fun. So he makes Mycroft grotesquely fat. He plays with things, and I think that idea of I suppose maybe the idea of Mary working for Mycroft is sort of it's like a logical extension, isn't it? And also that thing of just having the line, "Are you clear on that, Watson?"
Yeah.
And then, "Oh, it's the other one." There's
There's a
parallels
problem too. We couldn't ignore the fact that at the end of his last vow, Mary, or during his last vow, Mary's revealed to be this this super agent. She can't go back to being just the missus. She has to be the super agent in both versions. So I think during Sherlock Holmes' drug fit, he somehow puts them together, which makes sense. Probably in his vague paranoia. If I were Mycroft, I'd employ Mary to look after me. That's what I'd do.
Yeah, that makes sense. The paranoia, that definitely
and the gagging
makes
up.
sense.
I like the gagging
Yeah.
up. That's good.
All these smart people who annoy me.
Being me in my
Also,
head.
Mycroft can hide Mary in a flap of skin. They
They
go
can
out
just tuck
together.
in.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Well, let's talk about corpulent Mycroft. Because he is, in the original books, he is fat.
Yeah.
Did you ever think when you first started we could do it that way, or did you not? I mean, you're often seen on treadmills and you're keeping fit.
Oh, it was all about, originally, it's the equivalence thing, which we've done from the beginning. And as with other aspects of it, some of them came straight away, the nicotine patches instead of the pipe, things like that. And other things, it's a bit more of a puzzle, but we thought, given that the Billy Wilder film, Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, had been one of our great inspirations, and Christopher Lee is not a fat Mycroft. You take that part out of it and concentrate on the rivalry between the two brothers, then you can use it as a little joke. So he's worried about his weight, and
He struggles a bit, doesn't he? To
yeah.
keep it down.
And we did actually. I think originally he was going to have pills, which we didn't use. And there were sort of diet pills or something. But obviously Sherlock has a dig about it all the time because he knows there's history. So again, it was like that was the modern equivalence. Someone like Mycroft now, given that he was going to have to be actually more active than the one in the stories, who hardly moves, he would actually do something about it, but have a constant kind of worry.
That was exactly with the modern version of Mycroft would sort out his weight problem. But I think we've got a photograph somewhere, haven't we, of the Holmes boys together as kids and young Mycroft as fat.
Yes, it never appeared. It's in Sherlock's bedroom. It's on the beach. And so that's what it was all about. But then obviously with the bride, Sherlock has let rip and makes him into Mr. Creosote, which obviously was a joy.
What's that?
I've got a question for you actually, because you run now.
Yeah.
Did you start running?
Post that.
So was it Sinus 3 when we put you on the running machine?
I wasn't running then, but I do run now.
But getting fat Mycroft, what process do you go through for that? Do you just kind of build a fat suit?
I ate and ate.
Yeah, and then you lost it really quickly. It's all healthy.
It's like Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
De Niro, Raging Bull.
Big fat suit.
Timothy
wasn't it?
Spall's
Timothy
fat
Spall's fat suit.
From
was
Britain's Fattest
adapted.
Man.
Yeah. It was extraordinary.
And
It
then
took you
Millennium
ages
Effects.
to put it on, didn't it? And then nobody had told you how you could actually go to the loo. That was the main problem, wasn't it? Because
these things are not thought about, and it's this, in the same sense the year dot. It's like Doctor Who monsters. People forget about you, and when you're the size of the room, people walk past you, and I literally couldn't go to the
These
toilet.
hands.
in ages.
I know, they were like
It
little...
was properly. It is very disabling.
You were getting fatter.
coffee
and
mark,
fatter.
And at lunchtime, it was just much easier to sit there like that and nod off like someone who's 40 stone would do. I had to go through doors sideways. It was really.
That's an interesting experience.
It's not heavy because it's like a farthingale. It's like hoops with brilliantly moulded pieces, actually modelled on a real obese person. But it's just so difficult, and with the prosthetic as well, which obviously has to be constantly attended to. But it's a brilliant piece of work. I mean, really one of the best I've ever seen. I think it's fantastic. And
But I have one more question about the fatness, which is all the food, the lavish.
oh yeah.
You're surrounded by, and I think at the beginning of that scene, as we cut to you, you're eating. Does that mean you had to do a lot of eating in that scene?
No, I'm a professional, boy. I've been doing this for years. What you eat is a grape. That's what I'm going. Delicious. I can eat a few grapes. I did say I made a point in the scene of saying he should be like the Ghost of Christmas Present. That he's like on a pile of puddings, and we had the wonderful caterer who made all these Victorian, jellies and partridges, and these incredible pies. I mean, incredible pies. And
incredible, weren't they?
Well, and halfway through the day, I said, she said, I'm just going to chuck it all out unless anyone wants it. And so she actually made this great big box for me, I've got a picture somewhere.
Oh, wow.
So end of a very, very long day, and she gave me, and I went back to the hotel and opened it up. I just went. Last thing I could
No more quail for me.
There were 4 quails with eggs and these massive pork pies. I mean, they were beautiful, but I had to throw it away. I felt sick as a dog after all that Christmas pudding.
Yeah, okay. Presumably they were historically accurate. Was it the food that there would have been? Because that was breakfast.
You know, like
as well. That was breakfast.
like aspic jelly.
Yeah.
I mean, just unbelievable.
Yeah. Apart from the challenge of coming up with period food for that scene, I mean, the difference, I guess, between doing a period version of this show and, I mean, the normal version of the show is complicated and ambitious and epic enough, but was it doubly complicated to do this version?
It all takes long. I mean, everything takes longer. You can't just kind of put 60 kind of supporting artists at the back. Yeah. Everyone's got to have wigs and clothes and corsets and closing the roads. You've got to cover every single. You know, London's hopeless, really, because it's just lines and everything. Everything has to be removed, I think. But the lighting as well, because you can't just. You've got to use Victorian lights, really, and candles, and so that all takes longer.
Luckily, any continuity error is because it's in his head.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's
That's
deliberate, in fact.
Gets that bit
deliberate.
wrong. Doesn't know about that bit.
Yeah.
Deleted that bit. It's funny, isn't it? Because obviously you can do so much more now in post, but you still want to minimise it so that you don't just point down modern Gower Street and say, "Oh, it doesn't matter, we'll fix it in post," because you're going to have to fix a lot.
Yeah.
But things creep in all the time, don't they?
But a lot of it was authentic, wasn't it? I mean, there was lots of roads we used when we were on location. And so it was all very. It didn't feel like there was going to be much done.
Well, that's why I went to Bristol and Bath, wasn't it? It was
so lovely, just going along these
stuff,
streets, and they were all transformed into these Victorian.
Paint the odd building when it's pink or something.
Fantastic.
And you also had a maze to find as well. Where was that?
Longleat.
I kept trying to cut the maze. It was
We just kept saying no,
sure
didn't we?
you need the maze?
We need a scary maze. We need a scary maze.
Yeah.
That's a
And
fact.
that's the only scary one in the world.
What was the big problem with the maze for you?
Well, technically, it was really hard to get in and film it. There was a lot of scaffolding and the weather was awful.
Well, it went
It
in
went
and
from
out,
sunny
wasn't
to
it?
rain. It was. And also, if you look at Longleat, it's just got these very modern bits all over the place. You know, the kind of stands. You had to avoid all those. It was just tricky.
I'm guessing
Structurally.
the other thing that maybe you wanted to take out when you saw it, maybe, I don't know, the falls, the Reichenbach Falls. I mean, that seems like an inherently
I jokingly kept saying,
expensive
let's
thing.
lose that. Yeah.
We said we were prepared to lose everything apart from that.
Just
Just
the whole
do that
thing.
scene, it'll be fine.
It's fantastic, that scene.
Yeah.
That
It's
seems
amazing. When I first saw it, I was like, that is just beautiful. It's so dramatic.
And did you know how you were going to do that? I mean, do you as writers know how it was roughly? Did you think, oh, well, this is how they can do it? It'll be fine.
We did sort of know that we didn't want the real version. You know, I mean, they actually did the real version in the Jeremy Brett series, but we didn't want that one. We wanted the one, you know, the way it was illustrated in Strand magazine, which isn't actually like the Reichenbach Falls at all. And the part, you know, the path cut into the cliff face makes no sense. None of it makes any sense, and we wanted it to sort of look hyper real, because this is a Gothic landscape of the mind. It's not really there, so it should look, you know, sort of satisfying and unreal, and like a storybook. That's what we wanted. But what, you know, the reality, I mean, I hear lots of people talking about CGI and all. There's very little CGI in that. There's the big pull out, and a couple of the things that they built that.
Yeah, I saw
There's
it.
a waterfall,
Yeah.
and there's a thing, and people talking about matte paintings and so on, saying there aren't any. They're standing next to a waterfall built in the studio.
It was an amazing accomplishment. Douglas,
Yeah,
on that
extraordinary.
day. I mean, if that was a feature film, it'd have been 2 weeks. We'd have been, and we did it in a day.
All in a day.
And it's really, I think the final result and the enhanced waterfall is just wonderful.
I remember the day before, they had all that water, and they said, we're going to heat it up overnight so it's not too cold for them in the morning. So I said, fine. I got there in the morning, no water in the tank at all. So I said, what happened? It started leaking, so we had to empty the whole tank. And then start filling it. And water in studios is never a good
And actors as well, I think. Actors.
Wet
Actors.
Wactors.
Wactors are the worst.
There's a funny thing there, because there's nothing you can, when you're that soaked, there's nothing you can do. Like Andrew had this lovely Moriarty suit, but his collar just went, it was like paper. And Benedict's Deerstalker, after a while, become like limp as a lettuce. It loses all its shape.
Yeah.
Oh, and his tie started running,
it's just
actually.
like,
We've had to take all that out in post,
Yeah.
actually.
Yes, it did
Bits
actually.
of ink,
started,
yeah.
ink,
So they didn't mind getting really wet for the sake
No,
of
they
that.
were fine.
No, they were fun actually. I remember Martin
Fighting
coming back to
in
the
the
hotel
colder
and
water
going,
than
that was,
expected.
I think they had a lot of fun actually. I know Martin said he said the same thing. What they managed to get in that little time was incredible. And they all, I think all three of them had a nice time actually. I think they enjoyed that scene.
Well, you know.
I don't think it's Douglas's favourite day,
No,
really.
but technically it must be a nightmare to
Yeah.
film something like that.
He's proud of it now.
No, I think it's brilliant.
God,
yeah.
And there was a
It
point
took
where they were
them a
doing
while to
close-ups,
get.
I think, the next day or
That's
something.
right, yes.
Right.
With this
Tiny bit.
lametta, wasn't it, behind them and a light. I'm thinking, this is never going to cut in. It looked like some sort of Christmas
Yeah.
shot,
Yeah.
but it worked brilliantly.
It's very clever.
Under their beautiful costumes, are they wearing like wetsuits and stuff to keep them, or how does it work?
They were, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so,
But it
yeah.
was. I mean, it's not
Yes.
freezing. It's not like.
And they were inside, it was all
just-
inside.
Right, of course.
It's just kind of. Having done it myself, it's kind of relentless,
Yeah.
and it's a bit like you just realise that now every part of you is wet.
Yeah, and you
and
can't
after
get
a while
it
you just
dry.
kind of get.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's just heavy.
Yeah.
But having a fight is keeps you going. I think that's.
And it is about as iconic as Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
gets.
Yeah.
That's to do that and to do it the way it sounded,
Yeah.
the way it was illustrated originally was incredibly exciting. I think I saw one review saying, what was it? Of course, you didn't really need that. And I just want to say, what do you mean need? We actually need to do anything.
No,
It's a television program with a made-up detective
Yeah, it's in his
solving
head,
made-up
it's
crimes.
fine.
Right? It's not actually strictly necessary. It's Reichenbach
Yeah.
and it's Sherlock Holmes and it's
Yeah.
Moriarty.
Yeah.
You don't need Santa Claus ever. What you don't you? Oh no.
But there's a lot in this episode of that, isn't there? Of giving us, I felt like me as a fan giving me treat
Yeah.
after treat. Like you do
I'm
the.
afraid they're all for us, really.
Yeah.
Are they? Is that true?
You're right, share our trees.
Writing back the scene where recreating the real opening where Sherlock meets
Yeah.
it meets Watson and the whipping of the dead body and all of that. And there's that wonderful scene where Sherlock and Watson are together intimately talking about, where he starts talking about Sherlock's past and trying probing him a bit, which that felt to me like a kind of another great treat for us to see, just a little bit challenged, a little
Well, do you
bit.
know, funny enough, quite a few of those scenes, it's not. I mean, obviously we've done the beginning before, but the chance to do them in their original context opened up a lot of doors. I remember saying we need to do a scene like in The Speckled Band, where they're staking out the house, and Watson says, "Oh God, this is the longest night of my life." One of those, because there's a lot of those. It feels like there's a lot of.
And there was also a moment in that script where we just sort of went, we're going to wait outside and then we'll go and get involved in the adventure, and that's what happened.
Yeah,
And you realise we actually have to stop because just pace-wise, you can't bear it. They actually have to sit and talk. And we went backwards and forwards over that scene a lot.
But also, they're some of the best scenes they are.
It's a beautiful
You know, and
scene.
it's as we know, it's what people really love about the show more than any spectacle and the actual crime of the week.
Yeah.
It is when you find a little bit more about our favourite heroes.
Yeah.
It is.
But it's also that thing, because we discussed what we're going to do in this scene. Is Dr. Watson, at some point, in any version, whatever version, must have sat Sherlock Holmes down at some point and said, come on, what's the truth? I know what I write, but what's the truth?
Yeah.
What happened?
Do you know? I would say, as a, being in the middle of writing Series 4 at the moment, if anything, it's like a good writing exercise for the show. It's to look at the stories and think, what did Doyle not do in terms of what must have gone on? If you had two men living together, at some point, even if you back project, he would have asked him,
Yeah, of
have you
course.
ever, and actually that's a very good way of opening new avenues,
Yes.
is to, like we said with...
Well, like The Best Man, wasn't it, as well?
He literally,
He must have been the best man.
He must have been his best man. Or with Charles Augustus Magnuson, in the original story, Charles Augustus Milverton, it has an odd end where they break into Milverton's house and a completely unrelated character whom he has been blackmailing kills him, grinds her foot into his face.
Yeah.
And then they scarper with the police on it. I remember when we talked about it, it's like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's like Doyle has actually adjusted the truth, or Watson has.
Yeah. It
Sure.
reads as though Watson's adjusted the truth because he doesn't want to admit what he did was break in and shoot Milverton. And he's written this for the Strand magazine. in order to cover up. But I also wondered what Doyle was intending to write that, and thought, no, I can't actually have him just shoot Milford. So we restore what
I'll leave
I
that
think
to the boys.
is the intent. We just did it. You
But I
just
think
shoot
it does. You can sort of think. You look at a story you're very familiar with and think, I wonder what else happened in this domestic situation that we were never privy to.
Yeah.
Of course, the other thing that happened in the Reichenbach Falls scene is the elementary My Dear Watson at last. How have you been? Did you think we have to do this one day, or do you think this is the perfect opportunity for that?
I remember, because I take a pass at some of the early stuff and put elementary My Dear Watson in at the end of the first scene when he unveils Mary, and that was quite funny. It was the sort of final thing, and then we had it somewhere else, didn't we? And then we been several times with the Reichenbach thing, and thought must be where he says elementary My Dear Watson, just so that some pedant will say, but he never actually said that, you know.
Really, there's a lot of things he never said.
Yeah, I mean, yes,
But there was-
he said, my God,
We said
Watson,
it now.
nothing is getting said. So,
There was no more perfect. It still makes me fill up that. It's just the most wonderful
Yeah.
place to just pop it. And actually, thank God we saved it.
yes.
Actually, Mycroft says it in Empty Heart. Says elementary, but not
Yeah.
It wasn't. But I'm so glad we held back because it's just
It's
the
such
right place.
the
Why
hairs on the
not?
back of my neck went up when I saw
Yeah.
that. It's just such a brilliant moment.
And then see Benedict doing the swan dive. Now, is that hard? He must be used to it by now, I guess, doing these swans.
Diving off things.
All he does.
Getting the wires back
getting the wires
again.
back. Does it get easy to do those scenes? I mean, it looked fantastic on the screen.
Yeah, well, that one actually, he didn't fly very far at all. It
I
was
didn't
only
know.
about 10 foot up, was it? Yeah, but everything ran behind him.
At a certain point when, one of the crew's bored, we dangle Benedict.
It just
Isn't that wonderful? There's a picture of him dangling from Bart's with an umbrella.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
very
lovely.
popular.
Yeah.
Poppins is great, that one.
But he's very game. I mean, but Martin and Benedict both hugely up for all that,
Yeah.
all the physical stuff. And actually, with Reichenbach Fall, etc., he was so brave. But he really wanted to do it, just hurl himself off.
Yeah.
It's kind of frustrating when there was some press reports at the time. It was like with his stuntman looking nervous. I thought he didn't want a stuntman.
I'm bored.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I want to
it's
go.
not true. He loved it. Yeah.
In terms of the surprises, like for example, Andrew Scott, Moriarty coming back, is it?
The least surprising thing, since he always comes back.
I know he always
doesn't
comes back, so you're used to keeping that surprise, but it's still a delight to see him back. And I had no idea that he was coming back in this particular episode. I don't think any other journalist.
I'll tell you a story.
Yeah.
We at Gloucester Cathedral with the wedding dress and all the acolytes, and Andrew was smuggled in. It was like top secret operation. He was hidden at every stage. There was like a put you up inside the cathedral. There were lots of fans outside. They nearly saw him. We got away with it completely. And then we were going to get a train back to London, Andrew and I. And they said, come through here. We had to go through the catacombs, through this little door through here, out to the back. Nobody there to meet us. And all the people around the front. And I'm not kidding. Andrew hid behind me. And at one stage we did that thing that Sean Connery does in From Russia with Love, of like pretending to be kiss me. It was unbelievable. And there was some sort of mess up with production, and we were just stranded. And then eventually it was the least secret thing you could possibly imagine. Everyone got to the station before we did. And then when we arrived in this minibus, all the fans from the cathedral were at the station. It's like, and it still didn't get out.
Yeah, it's amazing that it
It's a
didn't.
Christmas miracle.
So Andrew Scott was crouching behind you. Basically. It's like he didn't talk.
It was a
And
shadow.
he had to stay down in those. We had to stay down in
it was
those
funny.
very dusty old catacombs.
But
as
also,
well.
we have to give a little tribute to the fans there, because they have kept a lot of secrets.
They were
Yeah.
brilliant, actually. They were really good.
They show
weren't
up, they watch, but
Yeah.
they don't
Very
look.
Because
rare.
some of them had
That's
spotted him getting
Yeah.
on a
Yes,
train.
yeah, and they didn't say anything.
But he does
did
do
they?
that.
Well, get on train.
He's allowed.
Yeah.
He's allowed to now. There was a period when he wasn't allowed to.
Yes. We had to insist he was actually dead for a while. You can't be seen in public. You shot yourself in
Yes,
show.
so come on.
All right,
stay
so many
home.
secrets. At the same time we're filming with him, we're trying to get out of him what he's doing the Bond film as well.
Yeah, we kept saying, "Who are you?"
He was made of secrets.
Yeah, he was.
He must be the best secret keeper in
He really
in the
is,
world of
yeah.
acting.
But we're really resenting the fact he was keeping secrets from us.
I bet.
That was just wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that happen? We are not the people
Especially
who
as
get
huge
secrets
Bond
from-
fans that you both
Yeah,
are.
absolutely.
Yeah.
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 We're very cross.
In the wonderful scene where he's in 221B Baker Street, strutting his stuff, he licks some dust at one point. What's the dust made of, or did he do it? Method.
Full as earth, isn't it? It's pretty grim. I just remember there's probably an outtake of him going, like the elephant going. It was pretty grim, that. Yeah. Yes, but he went for it.
Yeah.
It's his equivalent of throwing himself off a waterfall. He might lift some dust.
Of all of these treats you've given us, and yourselves, as you said, you're doing it partly for you. So what's the greatest one for you?
In the special?
Yeah, in the special.
Oh, right.
Reichenbach,
Yeah.
Because I mean, in that way, with the modern rationale, it was like, well, when we did Reichenbach Falls, Steve Thompson, it was like, well, we're not going to Switzerland. What's the equivalent? What would tie it up?
Yeah.
But of course, and it's a wonderful location at a high building, and it's a brilliant episode. All those things, but of course, secretly, it's disappointing. It's not the waterfall. Yeah. So in a sort of Christmas pudding of treats, it was like, oh, I know.
I think I would think that scene is the equivalent of Tom Baker turning up in the Day of the Doctor.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually need to be there, as some people have been kind enough to point out. But isn't it great that it is?
In terms of the suffragette theme, which was fascinating.
Suffragists.
Suffragists.
Suffragists, of course, yes. And what did you think of that?
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. And I love when she says, I'm a suffragette, and she says, "Get out." So it's one of my favourite scenes. That with them.
Are you for or against?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out. It's lovely.
That was very funny.
But I was pleased that she was she was part of that movement. It just added to her strength, and I like that.
And it felt almost like that using the suffragists was a way of perhaps commenting on the fact that if you had have set it in the whole series from the start in that period, you could never have given so many great roles for women.
No.
But it is,
They wouldn't have spoken.
It's interesting. It is early, and that's part of the rationale. In Sherlock's head, because he doesn't know everything.
Right.
It is too early. The movement really, as a movement, is a lot later, more turn of the century. But the point is, it came out of and the joke is, none of the women really speak in Doyle. We can't do that. So what do we do? What do we do with our characters, having established them as very rounded, three-dimensional characters? Is they can't suddenly be silent unless you make a joke of it.
Yeah.
And then the whole point was that Mrs. Ricoletti using the methods of secret society she's heard of, kind of constructs this death cult as a way of creating the bride. That's the solution to the real crime. But it's much more about what's going on inside Sherlock's head towards the end. We were very keen to actually say, this is where the story would end if you were really solving it, but there's much more to come. So it's not about, as someone pointed out, it's not about a gang of insane feminists.
No, it's really not.
It's got nothing to do with
No, it
feminism.
hasn't.
She's
It's a
using
story.
the death cult.
She's using the mechanics of a secret society to put the fear of God into bad people, into bad men.
I think I read someone saying that, claiming that those people in the hoods were suffragists. They were not campaigning for votes for women. They were killing people. They had nothing to do with the suffragists. When Dr. Watson says, he does ask, is it the suffragists? And Mycroft scorns him. Of course it's not. Nothing to do with that.
The whole point of the conical things is that it's like the Spanish Inquisition, which we didn't expect.
No one does.
It's not like the Ku Klux Klan, although that is the solution to the original story of the Five Orange Pips. And then that's why Moriarty says, is this silly enough for you? Is it Gothic enough?
It's all in there, isn't it? I mean, it's all explained.
And of course, and he is at the end, he is explaining what's happened to Dr. Watson. He's not explaining.
Well, apparently mansplaining, which we read somewhere.
Yes,
which
I read that.
But I looked at that and I thought, but it's called Sherlock.
Indeed.
Who else is going to explain if it's not Sherlock? You go, I do know the answer, but Mary, could you just explain what's been going on in
If you don't like a man explaining things, you may have picked the wrong show to watch. But mansplaining is when a man explains things to a woman or to women.
Yes.
That's not what happens in the scene. Even within the dream, he's explaining it to Dr. Watson, not the women present. And in fact, he's actually talking to himself. He's the only real person there.
Yeah.
This is Sherlock Holmes beating himself up for how he's treated the women in his life. And it's not even a subtle thing. We've got Janine there. We've got Molly there. He's beating himself up. He's realising he's been screwing up. Because there is a nice thing in the original stories that Sherlock Holmes is presented in the first few stories. He does sound like a misogynist, but he's definitely not by the end of the stories. He's absolutely not.
I mean, to be brutally frank, if we put some of the original lines in Sherlock, that would be from Sherlock Holmes. That would definitely be, because he says it explicitly. Women are never to be entirely trusted. Watson, not the best of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a pretty strong statement. That's clearly where he is. It's not where he ends up, as Stephen says.
True, obviously.
I mean, there are lots of echoes of other stories. Again, when you first told us that this was based on a couple of lines about Ricoletti, but of course there's loads of other. There are much bigger stories that you've used. What are the things that we might not even notice that you've used?
Well, I suppose Moriarty in the wedding dress is a little nod to a story called Shoscombe Old Place, which is actually a man disguised as a woman at the end. In the Jeremy Brett series, it's Jude Law, non-speaking of all people. There's obviously there's 5 Orange Pips. There's a bit of Blue Carbuncle. There's the clubfoot is a disguised Chinese joke because it's Ricoletti of the clubfoot, and I decided he's actually his opium den is called the clubfoot. So we had it translated. Apparently, it's correct, but it's too modern.
Yes, but that's in his head.
It's all in his head.
Yes.
It's supposed to be.
Note to self: always do things that people
entirely in it.
Was it difficult at all to, particularly for example with Mary's character, think how are we going to put her back in that era and we've got the spying thing. What other elements to keep it interesting, to keep her kind of that particular element fascinated me, that you're bringing those versions of the modern characters we know. And did you have big discussions about how you were going to do that?
Well, the problem was we had so little time to do it because you've had a major revelation about Mary. Mary is not who you thought she was in the previous episode. She can't just go, as I said earlier, go back to what she was before. She's got to be super good at this. So you should be super good at it in the Victorian version where she actually solves the crime. And indeed in the modern version actually solves it as well. Because if we did anything else, then it would be like we'd forgotten. She's the professional. Sort of looking after our 2 bumbling amateurs.
Yeah. In the scene where you're filming the plane, which kind of which you had seen in the end of the previous episode, was that all done? People might think, oh, you somehow sneakily filmed those scenes while you were filming the end of the previous episode, but presumably not.
I see a pained look on Mark Gatiss's face. I can't imagine what he's going to say.
No, it's really the height of that set. But as Sherlock Holmes himself says, for a tall man to take a foot off his height is no laughing matter. I really did do most of it like that. Because we recreated the plane. We couldn't get Bruce Dickinson's jet.
Well, just half of it, actually, wasn't it? Half.
Yeah, that was a
what I
long
think
day.
is amazing is that's not the airstrip. It looks identical to the one in Bristol, and it was just at the back of the studio.
Wow.
It looks properly identical, doesn't it? And there's no plane on it.
And just a bit of the door.
That's right. Yeah, that's all there is.
That shot is
And it was really icy, wasn't it? I remember it being
just
really
a
icy
doorway.
that day. It was
very
very
persuasive.
precariously slipping, I remember.
And a brilliant wig.
A wig, because Paul's Benedict's hair was
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he kept saying in interviews that how thrilled he was not to have his frizzy hair, and that he could have just it slicked back in the period version. Then you had to.
As you
Really
know,
had to do the wig.
that was Benedict's first and only response to the
Yeah.
idea. Can I have a haircut?
It was a brilliant wig, actually.
It was a
was,
great
but you
wig,
really
actually.
can't tell,
Yeah,
can
it was
you?
really good.
But see now we've got that amazing mask from the Empty Hearse.
Yeah.
We've got a brilliant wig. Benedict's not available.
Yeah.
He's asleep.
Anyone can.
Yeah.
He'll be very
just
the mask.
And then he can just do voiceover.
But CGI help. We could get
Like
him to
Nero
walk
Wolfe,
around
he
a
could
bit.
solve
Yeah.
from his bed.
That could be the perfect new guy.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
in bed with Sherlock.
Totally. What was the hardest scene to film? Was there a scene? I'm thinking of the slow motion scene on the street where Lestrade was explaining the case. It seemed like a pretty spectacular moment, just with as of extras in the background and presumably CGI kind of period
Yeah,
streets.
that wasn't the hardest, I don't think.
Reichenbach.
No, it was the Reichenbach
Right.
Falls, definitely the hardest, I think.
I mean,
Because of the amount we had to do in the time, it was a really full day.
Was it?
And obviously, as Sue says, logistically, carriages, horses. There was a very big day of in Bristol of the traffic back and forth at the beginning, and that's just literally green screen one side of the street, and then you green screen the other, and the same people go the other way.
Yeah.
Creates a mass of people, but God, it's time consuming.
Yeah.
But those scenes as well, do you remember when Sherlock's flat rooms were put actually outside into the street.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were, we were filming at night outside the
The
club,
opium den, yeah.
and that just felt very long because we had to do loads of different shots and cutaway shots, and there was
Yeah, I think the hardest thing of that was the lighting,
Yeah.
because you're using outside light and then you've got to make it feel like it's inside.
Inside.
That was a balance.
yeah, and also hiding everything as well. sort of making sure that people couldn't see what was going on, because that's quite a...
But again, you know, people are very good.
They
I remember,
were brilliant, yeah.
In the Reichenbach Falls, because you know, around Barts, it was very open. Anyone could come by, and they did. And I remember we were looking at Benedict on the pavement, covered in blood, clearly dead. And I looked round and I said, "You're spoiling it for yourselves, you know." No one ever said anything, and it's good.
Yeah, it is lovely when
we did shoot a whole lot of stuff that wasn't
Yes,
in
we did.
Or did you do something? You did something with Andrew, didn't you? Like
Yeah,
shake
you
your
and
hand.
Andrew.
That was later. This was
Yeah.
the first
For
one.
in this episode, for this episode?
No,
Oh,
that was
okay.
on Empty House. We filmed an entire fake scene where Mycroft and Moriarty shake hands.
And
And
so
at the
look
last
at-
minute I said, "You put Benedict's coat on. That'll be it."
Nonsense.
And then you have the director standing there saying, "Can I shoot the actor?"
Time's pressing
It'd
on.
be nice
Very
if
wanted
we-
to put it in the
something
show.
we actually put on television. But no, we're winding up fans.
Wasn't it hard keeping the modern day shooting bits secret?
Yes.
Yeah, because we had
And we didn't succeed.
We had the
People-
cemetery, didn't we? There
Graveyard.
was stuff in the
Oh, yes, we
graveyard.
agreed on a line there, didn't we? I remember we said
Yeah,
we
we were
publicity
shooting
material.
Publicity, yes, promotional stuff. We had the
Clever.
whole thing.
Yeah.
But actually, we were lucky. There were, we were sort of in and out.
Yes.
People did turn up, but it was sort of done, I thought.
Yeah.
And then there was the bit when Benedict apparently wakes up again,
That's right.
and that was
yes.
all under umbrellas, but it didn't get out again.
Yeah.
Didn't. No, they took little pictures, but nobody really kind of commented on it.
No.
That was one of my favourite bits in the show. Actually, was when you're in Sherlock's room with Moriarty, and then it starts to move, and it's like the
Yes.
plane
Yeah.
landing. That for me was like a real.
That was brilliant.
This is so good. What's going to happen now? And then
Yeah.
it lands. It was so good.
So did you really not remember we'd sat and explained the plot to you in advance? It's good that you
No, I
forgot
kind of
that.
block things out. It's a good job because
She
I
deletes
know.
things like Sherlock.
I know.
Brain space.
I know. I did know what was
Lines.
happening in the full series. Not a clue now. It's all gone. It's all fallen out.
Mark and Stephen
but
talking.
thankfully, yeah. But it's good though because I do tend to spill the beans a bit, so it's very good that I
okay.
can't actually rember.
This is absolutely true. This is a revelation. When we were at Tintersfield, which was the big house, Lord and Lady Carmichael's house, and we're outside. It was freezing cold, and I said something to Benedict about the fourth series, a big thing, and I thought, God, he's not supposed to know that. And then I thought, I don't think he's really heard. No, he hasn't. I'll tell you later.
Really?
I just went, oh God.
Are you not telling us?
I thought I was talking to myself.
Oh no, there's loads we're not.
There was a day, well, it wasn't really because you already started writing, but there's that little bit when the show went out, and you go, oh, phew, no more secrets. And you go, oh, no, we've got series 4 now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes things. So there's one coming up in this series where we just agree that this will never be written down. It's usually dialogue from Mycroft that Mark will just do on the day.
really?
Oh yeah.
That's what this bit in his last vow was never written down, precisely for that reason, so it wouldn't get out.
Oh, yes, I remember that one.
Which-
and we're
which
doing
bit?
this again.
Unbelievable.
I know. I'll tell you later.
I get it. Yeah.
I just don't know if we can trust you.
No. I'll forget about it as soon as we leave. I'll be like,
Yeah, but
what's this?
we
What
are
we
on
doing?
camera now.
What we-
I mean, that's the
I keep
thing.
forgetting, yeah. Sorry. See, I forget. I could just, yeah.
I can see that you're a
You
liability.
need one of
but
those
that-
men in black pens.
What's this? What we doing?
So you don't tell the cast like the big things until they actually sit down and read the finished script. Is that your rule, or do you? Or,
As a rule of thumb, we've sort of the last few years, we've done a sort of general pitch, and
Yeah.
we with
Okay.
big things, but
Yeah.
most
That's a lie, isn't it?
No, you.
That turns out to be a
we
lie.
had a chat. You know, you said
Yeah.
you get everybody in and you tell them their storylines, but not in a particularly complicated way. So you have the gist of what you're going to do,
Right.
and you know the.
Partly because they aren't.
But
written
you
down.
Yes.
didn't know, for instance, in Last Vow, you didn't know that you shot.
God,
Sherlock,
no, I didn't
yeah.
at all. No, and that when I read that, I was like, oh God, this is going to be amazing, and
But
everyone's going to
it's,
hate me.
it's because you want to keep the secret from everybody.
Yes.
It works. I mean, I know as a reader, if you haven't had something spoiled, it works the same as if you're sitting at home. It's just like, oh.
When I
And,
was
you know,
first in telly, I used to work with a director called Bob Spears. Remember Bob Spears, brilliant director. And he always used to say, he said, the most valuable thing, the most important part of my work on an episode is reading the script for the first time, and I want to know nothing. I want to be the viewer. He says, because that's what I'll remember. I will remember the first time I read it, and that's what I'm trying to put on television. He said. So he used to get very cross with me if I even talked or said a word about what I was doing, because apparently I used to open up a bit more when I was younger and nicer. And he said, no, don't tell me, I'll read it. Do not tell me a single thing before I read it.
Wow.
So that makes Right.
It's
Also, the actors get the scripts quite late, don't they, really? Because you get them much later.
Yeah.
Always bring that up.
No, but it's
For the
true though,
reason being,
Stephen.
because production will have them much earlier and costume will have them earlier, but because you're always playing with the
Dare I say.
dialogue until quite late, it's silly to have actors having the wrong dialogue.
Yeah.
So you
Also,
get
people
them really quite late.
People get terribly attached to things. Which
Yeah,
go-
they do.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
happened before. I've read early drafts and then they've gone, I've gone, where's that lovely scene gone?
I thought I was in this.
Yeah, hang on, they've cut me. Why have they cut? Yeah, so it's always nice when you get the final one and you go, oh, this is pretty locked now.
Yes.
This is great.
So shooting tomorrow.
Until the cutting room.
To the end. Like your beard went, didn't it?
Yeah, my beard, yeah.
Oh, you had a beard?
I did, I had a long sort of Santa beard. We call it a Santa beard in the business. Didn't work.
No, okay.
It was
On
distracting.
paper.
It was distracting.
It was distracting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was distracting. Well, especially with the mouse tied to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on. Did you have any other versions of the characters we know and love that you wanted to try out back then? Any other different ways to do that? Molly as a man was fantastic, for example.
Yeah.
That was quite
was
early
she-
thought of that. And I remember we did toy, and it was very unpopular with everyone except me and Mark, of having Andrew Scott made up to be like the Moriarty of the Victorian version. The long greasy hair.
Yeah, it was a
sort of
dreadful idea.
unattractive.
We looked at the picture
And
and
everyone
said,
was just saying, no, he's going to be attractive. And Mark, I thought, it's wrong. Don't care. And I came out of this tone meeting where everyone was just hitting me, and Mark wasn't there. And I said,
Oh, really?
Mark, that's not going to happen. He's going to be
But in the
handsome.
illustrations,
and
it's all raggly.
I mean,
it's authentic, darling. Authentic is the word you're looking for.
it makes logical sense, but it just didn't work. It looked odd on Andrew's face as well. Didn't it? It was like we could actually.
Did you try it on him?
He did have the wig.
Did he
on.
have a go?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, we sort of had to make him look older and.
Trouble is, it's not a thing that people know. Moriarty has never, apart from the Brett series, ever been made to look like he does in the story. Ever. No one's ever done that.
There's a reason for that.
He's actually, if you enter the
You have
word,
to look by Eric Porter. Then it works.
if you enter the word Moriarty into Google Images, I bet you get Andrew Scott. That's what people think
Yeah.
Moriarty
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah. A handsome man.
Yeah.
A handsome, charismatic villain.
What was the question? I've forgotten.
Whether there were other... So that's one of the...
Oh yeah.
Other,
Oh yeah. I was going to say about Molly. That was very interesting because there was a. I don't know, back in my head, but there was a real case, a Victorian, the Crimean War, an extraordinary story. A surgeon called Dr. James Barry. You know this story?
Yeah.
He was amazing, very, very talented surgeon. Died and was discovered to be a woman and had lived her entire life in order to get where she wants to be in a man's world. It's an amazing story.
That's incredible.
I think actually still buried as a man.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a precedent, funnily enough, inside this kind of crazy fantasy
Yes.
for trying to get ahead, and making people a fortune in false moustaches.
Because she seemed to love doing that. So
She
I
did.
could
She
tell.
looked
She was
great,
great as
wasn't
well.
she?
She looked fantastic.
Yeah.
It was really good. I loved that scene.
Yeah.
When Martin just goes like that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's such a lovely touch.
Cheers. They are all
I see.
blind. That's clearly a
Yeah,
woman.
I see.
I mean, God's
And it's all in his head. It's all in his head.
It's all in his head. It's all in his head. Yeah. Okay. Can we say that for the future episode as well? He hasn't woken up. He's
He's just constantly
Well, we'll come on to- we'll
sleeping.
keep
dozed off in the car.
We can come on to that at the
We
end of
could
this
cut
one,
back to
Joe.
him with his mask
Yeah.
on.
Oh, well, absolutely, yeah.
Come back
Well, I
to
was
that
going to
at
say,
the end.
talking of things that are in his head, we do see the notebook, Mycroft's notebook with Redbeard, clearly spelt out at the top. So what's the significance of that? Obviously,
Well, they won't tell me, so I doubt
Okay.
they're going to tell you.
The thing is, you see, that's what I'll say now, but we knew we were doing this, but by having that scene right at the end, where we go back to Victorian London, Victorian Baker Street, and Sherlock explicitly says, it's an imagined version of how I think the future might be. We have really opened a ridiculous window that the entire series of Sherlock might be the drug-induced ravings of the Victorian Sherlock Holmes.
yeah.
Which means we can do absolutely anything.
From now on, it's just a Victorian man being silly.
But all
all it is.
being very clever, because he's imagining it very
Yeah.
accurately what the
So,
world's going to be
yeah.
like.
Yeah,
in
well, you notice how he
2000.
always solves those crimes, and his deductions are always right, however improbable. It's pretty obvious.
All continuity errors because of that.
Yep.
And we're doing a black and white one where they fight the Nazis next.
And then
Yeah,
there's one with
that's
me
been
with a beard.
Yeah.
That we are going to go back to that. It's so funny because a lot of people think Redbeard is my dog because I've got a.
It's your beard.
It's my beard. That's what it is. Redbeard is my beard. But they think Redbeard in the his last vow is
Your dachshund.
My big
yes.
Arthur dachshund, my big red
But
dachshund.
it's a big.
I know, but I know, but I don't know what. But he's got that.
False
He's
perspective.
very, very large.
It's all a dream. Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's not that.
No, it's not that one.
But we've seen Redbeard.
But many
though,
people
haven't
say
we?
whenever
Yeah,
I
that was a
tweet a
dream.
picture of
Yeah.
whenever I tweet a picture of Arthur, they go, "Is that Redbeard?" And it's like, no, but he's got that. He's got the essence of Redbeard, which I quite liked.
In your mind, he could be Redbeard.
He is in
your
Redbeard
mind,
in my
he's
mind,
Redbeard,
yeah.
So, because we know Redbeard's the dog, we know that much, but you don't want to say any more about why. It's obviously written. No,
I love
you're
Mark.
obvious.
I love
Yeah.
him.
There's other things in that journal.
Oh yeah, there
I
were.
know
There's
there
lots.
were.
On the other page, which we didn't shoot, there's just drawings of cock and balls. What Mycroft does in his idle hours. That would be much more of a revelation. Hairy one.
It's on the DVD extras.
Yes, the other page.
That is it's the original. It's the notebook from A Study in Pink, though.
Oh, is that? Oh,
It's what he's always had with him.
oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask another really stupid question, but I just want to know how.
The answer
how
is no.
is Moriarty absolutely 100% definitely dead?
Yes.
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 Oh, okay. You're answered it. Fine. Okay.
Oh, you didn't say yes.
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 She's
He's
deleted
dead.
that.
Yeah. Who? Who's this now?
Yes, he is.
But of course, then he says, "And I know what he's going to do next." Or I'm
Yeah, he
paraphrasing.
does. Yeah.
And he does.
Confusing, isn't it?
Very
He
confusing.
does know what
Yeah.
It's almost like it's designed to be a massive cliffhanger.
It is
almost
almost.
a show that isn't going to come back for a year.
Do you mean that he might be withholding information and possibly being deceptive
Yeah.
in some way? I think it's an idea.
Fine. What we do know is that Moriarty is a key part of his mind palace now, isn't he? That kind of a very important element. I mean, as you said before, we've seen him
Yeah.
before in his mind as an important
Yeah.
kind of foil
Yes.
mentally. So we could be seeing more of Andrew Scott, is what I'm saying. As a huge fan of his version of Moriarty, we may see way more of him. He's just laughing at me openly.
I think what we could say is that we may
Yeah.
or may not see more of Andrew Scott as Moriarty.
Yes.
I think we can
Yes.
all get behind
I'm
that.
glad we've
Yeah.
established
Amanda doesn't have a clue what we're talking
I have no
about.
idea who you're talking
Yeah.
about now.
She thinks
Andrew
it's,
who? I don't. I've no
Yeah.
what?
that. Did you go back and watch, as I did, the episode again, knowing, I mean, you knew all along what the story was, and the script
yeah.
was, but it's amazing the little hints you have, you establish all the way through. There's one bit, I think, where certainly there's the scene where Sherlock talks about he rather than
Yes,
she.
yes.
Where he's clearly talking about
Yeah.
with his solving
Michael
Moriarty.
says the virus in the data.
That's
virus
lovely,
in the
that
data.
bit, yeah.
Did you go back as a viewer and kind of you watched it again?
I've watched it because my son likes to watch it a lot, and both
Is that the
Joe and Chris.
CBeebies panto?
Yeah.
Again!
It's behind you, literally behind you. But they so I watched it with them, and they picked. I mean, Joe picked up on that a lot. He went, "Why is he saying data?"
Yeah.
And which was quite cool. But we watch it a lot because it's a brilliant episode.
Yeah. Did that
You
line?
may come again.
Thank you very much.
Did that line about the data? Did that come to you like that as a way of kind of?
Well, it's an extrapolation from the
Yeah.
quote about the crack in the lens, the fly in the ointment.
But also, he could say virus in the data.
Yeah.
There's nothing for him to stop him saying. The word virus was around, the word data
Oh, is that
was
true?
around.
Okay.
It's simply, but Sherlock Holmes is always talking about data, always in the
Give me
original
data.
source. Give me data.
But there is it's a point which it goes suddenly close on Mycroft as a sort of knowingness
Yeah.
to.
But at that point, you should be starting to think there's something off kilter here, because we know that label wasn't there. He's seen the miss me. I think you're starting to think this is building towards something, and it's not quite as real as we thought it was. I think. Well, I don't think you think that. I think you start to. I mean, we were in the cinema, and you could see people starting to go, "Oh, what? That's not."
And he's got the label, but he wouldn't have had time to get the label.
So.
I'm going to try and get some hints about Series 4. Well, people, this is.
Can you
for
let
your
me know if
fans.
you get any?
Yeah. So, will the series be set straight after The Abominable Bride, or will some time have passed?
It may
I
or
love
may
this.
not be set
I love
immediately
your perseverance, though,
Thanks.
boys. I
Thanks,
love
Amanda.
the
Yeah.
fact that you might get
Nothing if not-
a kernel of truth or
know.
hint.
Because the Moriarty, I need to know whether I may or may not.
You've got to be in touch. He's a busy man.
That goes for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it
That's
may or
just
may
blank, by the way.
The
that is-
blank one,
yeah.
that is a good one, actually.
That is a really good one. Yeah. So nothing. No. Okay. Nothing.
Well, Sherlock Holmes is in it, and Dr. Watson.
We do address the outstanding issues.
Okay.
And it's modern day.
It's modern day.
Modern day.
Mary Moulston, isn't it? Mary Watson, isn't it?
Hello.
Um,
Molly's in it.
Molly's in it. Strata,
You're in it.
Mrs. Hudson.
Mrs. Hudson.
It's big. You know, some parts of it take place in Baker Street.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a revelation.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read. I can't wait.
Do the two of you spend a lot of time together thrashing out what the gist?
They fight a
That
lot,
scene
yeah.
in Women in Love in front of the fireplace.
Oliver Reed.
Yeah,
That's
they
what
do
I
that a
imagine.
lot on set,
This is
actually.
horrifying. This is when Oliver Reed wrestled naked with Alan Bates.
They tend to do that a lot in the green room.
But
in
I
between
wear the
takes.
fat suit.
Yeah. And honestly, so do I.
It's bruising.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to schedule a dinner to actually talk more in detail about episode 3 in the next few weeks. But that's when we sort of slug it out like that. And a lot of stuff comes out of that in the same, as we said before, very exciting way. It is just fun to throw things. Ideas at the wall.
Do you have your plot points? I mean, you must have kind of. You do know the trajectory.
We know
of each,
the big things that we've got to hit, and so we already know what those are really for all three.
Okay.
But how you get there, sometimes we surprise each other with how we're going to get there.
Right.
We know the big things we're aiming for, the big moments.
And do you stick to?
I think it's big. I can tell you that. We said that already, didn't we? There's some big stuff in the series.
Yes, it's not.
You said it's really dark, didn't you?
It's
That's just because of the lighting bills.
Was he just talking? Were you just talking about because the lights had gone off? Is that what it was?
It's just
It's
a lot of
really
it's
dark.
indoors and poor lighting is what I mean. I think it's always quite dark, Sherlock. But what could we say? Sometimes series 3 was almost like everything's lovely. For
Well,
a while.
was a deliberate thing.
He got shot.
But in the thing,
there are bound to be ups and
second
downs in any
episode was
complex
We
friendship.
did make 1 and 2 actually more light-hearted because we knew he was going to shoot Magnus, and we deliberately set out to make it like the best times for the three of as a new team, that they would really have a great time. And the special weirdly does bridge that in so many ways. We sort of, even though Mary is very proactive and a huge part of it's a sort of breathing space between Vow and the next one.
But also, what in the special, what I love is you get them back together again. I think you feel like John and Sherlock are on their little journey. Do you know? It feels like that. It feels you see their relationship again, and I like that.
And we also see, for example, Mycroft thinking about Sherlock and the drugs and worrying about him, and that element of things that could be drawn out more, perhaps, as in the next series. Is that?
You might think that I couldn't possibly. Well, we've always said the thing about Mycroft is that he cares enormously.
Yeah.
It's all from a place of care. He doesn't like anyone to know that. He tries not to. And I do think in his last vow when he sort of opens his heart.
Yeah.
That's my favourite line.
But it's because, and it is because he's been drugged.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he goes, what's that?
Yes.
But it is not. But the way you say it is
I
just
love
it's
it.
just when you say because it would break my heart. It's like
And he goes in through the door and says to his mum, "I also think you're wonderful."
yeah.
And then collapses.
But that's
Phoning his PA to
my
say,
favourite bit
"You're
of
wonderful."
that whole episode, after that, I think that brilliant scene with you and Martin, it's so moving. But then, as you collapse in his arms, and Sherlock just goes, "Don't drink the tea."
yeah, it's great.
That's
Don't
a
drink Mary's
huge laugh
tea,
every
it's
time,
brilliant.
and I laugh every time. I don't quite know why. I think it's the change in pace.
Yeah.
It's been this lovely intimate moment. Then she's unconscious.
Yeah.
Don't drink the tea,
Yeah.
and it's more or less like saying, "Did you forget which show this
Yeah.
is?"
Yeah, it's such. I love the series. Those series of scenes though that lead up to Magnuson being shot. From the minute where I say, "Oh, we're doing this today, are we?" And then it's the flashback, and then you build up to that amazing crescendo, and it's just, it's those two as well going.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now
Or yours as well.
Now 6'7".
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that's settled now.
That's on record now.
That's good.
Definitely yours.
Yeah,
I'd never like to ask.
Will Lou be returning? Yeah, that's the question.
Louis got a whole plan about having
Our
young
spin-off
Sherlock
series.
6'7"
and
now,
young-
isn't he?
Yeah,
6'7"
Sherlock.
and retired. It's been so long. It's been so long.
Yeah.
So there'll be the Molly and Mary
Molly and Mary.
and the
That's-
young Sherlock.
Lou and Mike.
Millie, Molly, Mary.
Or Sherlock.
Yeah.
Maury, you could do Millie, Maury, Mary.
Yeah.
These are all great ideas.
They all live together in a flat. It's a sitcom.
I like the set.
In terms of the stories that you're using as inspiration for the new series, because at one point I remember where you revealed kind of one word, didn't you? Was that series 3?
We will do that again.
You'll do that again.
But not yet.
We haven't worked out what the words are.
It's also, that's very true. But also, you know, it's happily, it's not that far away. Because having had the special January, series 4 will be next year as opposed to a 2-year gap. So
And
it's,
we were
it's
nearly into
shorter.
February.
And we are nearly into February. But so we want to, you know, we'll tease out these things. We don't give anything a big splurge, and also we don't know what they are yet. It's tough.
Well
that.
covered for a bit there.
Thing was, it really those single word ideas that the hints, it all really worked for series 2. Just coincidentally, not necessarily going to work perfectly for every series.
Would you ever do, you know, episodes which are pretty much not based particularly on, or is it?
Well,
not
we
sort
sort
of
of do. I mean, The Abominable Bride is largely an original story. And they mostly are, really. There's fragments, and there's definitely jumping off points. I think probably Study in Pink and Belgravian Hounds are the ones that have the most of the framework. But we're always just looking at favourite bits and always rediscovering bits.
Yeah.
I've said this before, but the Case of Identity, a beautiful, tiny story, which we used like 3 times, little bits of, because you couldn't really do it. It works on the page, but there are certain parts of it which are so touching and brilliantly written. The whole thing about, you know, procrastination on the doorstep always means an affair of the heart. And if she'd pulled the bell pull off, it would definitely be serious. It's lovely stuff.
Yeah.
So it's always worth going back to Doyle. That's what we always do, go back to Doyle, and you'll find the answer there, and also new inspiration.
But it tends to be the details you're getting, because the plots are not only basketballs is really long enough.
Right.
So but there's so many details that people don't know about. A friend of mine started actually reading Sherlock Holmes because of our series, and is quite startled by how much of it we just stole.
It's quite
from
angry
it.
now.
And I was sort of having to say to him, you know, that's not a rip-off. You know, we are explicitly adapting Sherlock Holmes.
You haven't hidden that's But I guess you could go back to Victorian London in terms of you could have more scenes set in his mind palace where he's going back.
Well, remember the main thing
please
it's not just his mind palace. Mycroft says it explicitly. It's a memory technique. In both occasions where we've gone into it, in his last vow, he's been shot and he's obviously doped the eyeballs. And in Abominable Bride, he's high. So it's a particular thing.
Yeah.
We could do it, of course, but he'd have to sort of take a 7% solution again or more.
I think it was a lovely thing to do. I think we've done it.
Is there ever anything that people don't notice at all that you've done? You know,
Yeah.
Usually when you try to be bleeding obvious, then they pick up on things. But it's all in his head.
It's all the dream of a Victorian lunatic.
I can't think. What did I miss any?
I think there's still an ongoing element that
Oh.
that people haven't really picked up on.
Oh,
I think.
including me, obviously.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I think. Well, yeah. I think there's stuff to come.
An ongoing element.
Stuff to come.
Really?
There's a lot of things, when you can say things very explicitly, people always get the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah.
Except the old one. You know, it was a bit like the theories for how he'd done it. Of course, someone was going to guess it because, you know, there are only so many ways you can fall off a building. But then there was, talking about reviews, there was a strange review which said they've even put in the squash ball, which is a popular fan theory. It's in the Reichenbach Falls. That's how he did it. That was our solution. Oh yeah, they copied that.
In advance, which is the worst kind of copy. I love that. When you preemptively copy something, I think you're just you're taking plagiarism too far.
Well, thank you all very much for this look back at The Abominable Bride. So,
Well done. Very good.
Sue,
you.
Mark, Stephen, Amanda, thank you so much. And I hope we've answered
All
some,
was
if not
nothing.
all of your questions.